you. A question I actually get asked quite often from ugly men on the internet. And you know what? Being a content creator for women's standards and boundaries, I get it. If I was a man who had no resources to provide for women, listening to my content, I would feel a little bit threatened too. I mean, I could practice some self-introspection and ask myself if I'm the partner that I would want to be in a relationship, or I could just blame some imaginary figure, some imaginary ex. Women should have standards and boundaries. It's just that this woman, and conveniently every other woman on the internet who preaches standards and boundaries, has something wrong with them. They're the exception. Women, have standards, do better for yourselves, pick better men, you deserve this. But also just don't listen to these women, because if you do, I'm gonna die alone. When these guys ask me who hurt me, my answer is always the same. Watching beautiful, smart, funny, charismatic, charming women settle for mediocre men. I can't tell you how many times I've seen an amazing woman shrink herself and then end up suffering to cater and bend over backwards for a man who takes instead of gives. The whole reason I created this platform in the first place, the Good Girls in Remission, is for us to come together as a community and validate each other's feelings in a world that overlooks women's emotions, needs, desires. Come together to validate and honor each other, but also to unlearn everything we've been taught about what it is to be a woman and what role and duties you need to play in a relationship. Because it turns out the book we've always been doing good by is fucking us over. We have been duped, tricked, and manipulated into mothering mediocre men. But that's all about to change. So if you feel hurt, or if you feel bitter, or if you're still trying to process a relationship that hurt you, please know that your feelings are valid and it's probably not your fault because you were taught something that actually wasn't beneficial to you. Anytime you see men on the internet arguing with a content creator, she's probably doing something right because they feel threatened that she's taking something away from them. And really, we're taking ourselves away from them. Men who are just trying to push their perceived rightness onto women will always argue back, and they'll preach the same statistics over and over again. Every time I've seen a statistic on one of my videos, I've instantly gone and Googled it, and it's been a fraud. It's been debunked in some way. My name is Kirsty, and welcome to another episode of Good Girls in Remission. We are going to go into the signs of the wounded feminine, the more nuanced signs as well, not just the obvious ones like I can't get over an ex. I mean the more subtle ones that maybe you're not even aware of yet. The reason I'm bringing your attention to it is because when you practice your awareness on your blind spots, you give yourself the opportunity to expand and step into the potential that you know is available to you. And when you step into that potential, you start calling in and manifesting the life of your dreams, because it's our goal to start restoring the mental health of all women on this planet, especially the ones that have been tricked into believing that they need to mother mediocre men, shrink themselves, hold themselves back, sacrifice their dreams. Just like what I said in my first video. We need more female-led spaces and places, female networks, female entrepreneurs, female founders. You don't need any more burnt out, stressed, bitter, angry women on this planet. And the way to get over it is to develop awareness around your blind spots where you're holding yourself back so that you can apply the tools to help you expand into that next level you. Because ultimately, we want to be pursuing our dreams, the life that we want, with a good man by our side. We want support from men. We don't want to sacrifice ourselves, hold ourselves back as the men supersede us and then dump us. No, we're not doing that anymore. We want a good man to support us on our journey of uncovering our own femininity during our time on this planet. And I feel like most women know this, but obviously that doesn't come at the expense of men. In fact, when that happens, we lift men up. So for any man out there just saying, oh, she's just a misandrist, she's just trying to keep you single, please. Obviously, your biggest indicator that you're in your wounded feminine energy is going to be an obsession with an ex or someone that hurt you. And often that's uncontrollable. And I've been there. I wish I could have switched my mind off at the time, but the thoughts kept going on and on in my head because I felt so wounded. The main number one reason that I felt wounding in me is because it touched on a sore point inside of me that I wasn't good enough and I felt undervalued. So if you're having an experience with a guy and he's treating you in a way that isn't nice, it's not respectful, it's clearly misogynistic, it's narcissistic, it's manipulative, that is all on him. That's his problem, not yours. And it's natural for that kind of behavior to hurt us. However, when we hold on for it too long, that's when we know the story's about us. Because we believe deep down, some subconscious part of us thinks that we deserve it. So therefore, we're attracting partners who reflect that dark aspect of us back to us. This is called the shadow work. This is not the same as dark feminine energy. This is shadow work. Your inner child, your unhealed trauma. When you start recovering from a relationship that hurt you, it's not your job to ask why he treated you the way that he did. It's not your job to take accountability for his behavior. That's doing too much. Feminine energy is about doing the least. Let him figure that out. Let him do the legwork. That's not your job. Let a therapist help him with that. It's your job to ask yourself why you stayed and why you thought it was acceptable. And once you get that understanding, you're less likely to fall for it in the future. And on top of that, the speed at which you can get over it greatly accelerates. Time does heal all wounds, but you have more influence over it than you think. I go into this in major detail in the Mastering Your Feminine Energy course. The second sign that you are in your wounded feminine energy is that you communicate with passive aggression rather than clarity. And this is a very, very common one that I see in women because predominantly we feel unsafe. When we talk with passive aggression, we are afraid of the repercussions that will occur when we speak our truth. And it's a very valid one because sometimes there are physical and emotional repercussions for speaking your truth. If you've been in a relationship with a manipulator, you know exactly what it's like to speak your truth in a calm way, in a calm and reasonable way, and then to have that thrown back in your face and made to look like you're the crazy one. So there are real repercussions. So what do? We revert back to passive aggression because it's an easier way to get our message across without being so blunt. When we communicate what's really on our heart and then people take that as an arrow, people take that as a personal slight, that's on them. If we're doing it in a way that's kind and compassionate and open and receptive, we can have a conversation about it. We're not trying to be definitive. We're not blaming and pointing the finger. We're simply stating, this is how I feel when you act this way or when you do something. I would love to see an improvement in this area. It makes me feel really loved and special when you do this for me. And if someone is to take that in a way where it leads to conflict or an argument or blaming of you for something that happened in the past or whatever it is, it's a lack of maturity there in them. The only thing that you can have control over is you, your emotions, and the way that you communicate. If you feel unsafe in an environment in which you can speak your truth, you need to get out, honestly, because there's no way you can grow. It's not your responsibility to try to change someone so they can hear you with receptivity. If they want to take it personally, that's on them. I understand that sometimes people just need a timeout. They just need a little breather and then they go and stew on it, think, and then they come back. But if you're met with harsh, immediate backlash, that's a red flag right there for you because you deserve to be in an environment in which you can speak your truth and not have to revert to passive aggression to get your point across. The little jabs and the little criticisms have to end because it's a subtle way of controlling people. You're obviously trying to get your point across in a way that softens the blow, but it's a backhanded way and it's kind of manipulative. When you employ certain behaviors and tactics like that, you're traditionally going to attract toxic partners because they're the only ones who is going to find that behavior acceptable. A man who is happy and healthy, who is disciplined in himself, who is self-aware yet open, he's not going to find that behavior attractive. A lot of passive, low-effort men take things personally. They're not interested in personal growth. They're more interested in protecting their identity, and using passive aggression as a technique to get your point across solidifies their presence in your life, which is why you need to stop and then watch the magic happen in your life. And all the relationships that aren't genuine will reveal themselves to you. It's incredible. Try it. The third sign that you're in your wounded feminine energy is that your desires are coming from a place of desperation instead of expansion. I think desire is the best tool humans can utilize to expand themselves. You have a vision, something that you think is possible for yourself or the world, others around you, and then you move towards it. First, it begins with your imagination, then you start to feel it, then you start to act from it, and then you draw to you the resources you need to achieve that goal, and you work in harmony with the universe to bring about a new and exciting change for you and everyone around you. When our desires come from a place of desperation, as in trying to escape where you are, you end up abandoning yourself. And we could end up attracting things that aren't really in alignment with our higher self. And this is an interesting point I see in the rise of interest in the trad wife life. There's nothing wrong with being a trad wife. If that's for you, that's great. There's also a part of me that believes that the women who say they want the trad wife life don't actually want it. They're just burnt out. Have you ever had an experience like that where you're just burnt out? Like you haven't had any rest, your mind's on overdrive, and you're like, crap, I really just want a holiday. And then you're on the holiday and you're like, damn, I wish this holiday was longer. Like I wish I could take like a month, 6 months, a year off. You think you want an extended time off and then you get it and it's boring. And you're like, okay, I'm actually done with this now. I really do want some direction in life. It's just that the thing I was doing before was a little too much. It was too taxing. In which case, a desire like that could come from a place of desperation to escape something that you're in, but it may not be in alignment with what is really meant for you. Or something else I've noticed in more chaotic women is that when they're fresh from a breakup, often their biggest desire is to get into a new relationship immediately. They don't take that time out to reflect and just spend time with themselves. They just immediately go back onto the dating apps and they're literally lining up like 1, 2, 3 dates a week until they can filter them out and get to someone who is just that little bit better than their ex. That desire to maybe compete with the ex and get into a new relationship first, or to just escape the pain that they experienced in the previous relationship without taking time to identify in themselves what brought them into a relationship, is coming from a place of desperation. A great way to get past this is to tune in with yourself and ask, what am I really desiring in this moment? And when you ask that, you might be thinking, well, I don't really want to be a trad wife, or I don't really want to be in a relationship right now. I actually want to travel. I actually just want to spend a year with my friends. I actually want to go and pursue this new course. I actually want to try this new career. Now, the next sign is that you use every bad thing that happens to you, big and small, as an opportunity to stay a victim. A huge one. The thing about the universe is that it's always working in your favor, including the bad things that happen. But it's your job to place meaning on it, because essentially the universe is neutral. It's neutral, but it's also working for you. It's only you applying meaning to it. It can be a little harder to practice that mindset when there are bigger things going on. But those little things add up into the big ones. If you see being shortchanged in the shops as an opportunity to stay stuck in suffering, you're going to have that same mindset when the big things come along. Getting a parking fine, going to the shops and finding the one thing you were looking for has been sold out. Just mediocre stuff like that. It all adds up. The thought process behind that kind of reaffirms a mood you've already been in. Like, of course this was going to happen. Nothing's working out for me. Or of course this was going to happen. People always abandon me. Men never support me. Pay attention to the stories that you're telling yourself when you're in these moments. I use a process called inner reconciliation to help me and the girls merge desires with their fears. Sometimes they butt heads. I want this, but it's going to come at the cost of this. Because when we use affirmations or we try to change things at the surface level, we're not addressing the root cause of it. And that keeps us stuck in the same story. Or we have to use mental willpower to try and convince ourselves to think something that we don't actually believe about ourselves or the world. If you're in a shit mood and something bad happens, it's obviously going to take a little bit more willpower to try and turn those cogs around. Mentally using effort to say something like, no, it's fine, it's all working out. Like, I'm pissed off, but like, it's fine, I'm abundant, even though I feel ripped off. Or it's fine, not all men, even though you feel like it is. When we act and embody self-love, it permeates into everything we do, every thought we think, every emotion we feel, every action we play out, every decision that we make. It becomes obvious to the people around you that you're rooted in self-love, and the manipulators won't want anything to do with you. They won't even try. You'll become a natural magnet for good men who want to support you, support your dreams, support your ambitions, no matter what they are. And the funny thing is, when you selfishly embody that self-love, you are able to show up for others in a bigger capacity. You're able to support others because you're not stuck in this poor victim mentality of give me, give me, give me. Everything sucks. I hate my life. Men just want to fuck me over. Because the mental mind frame of someone who loves themselves is, if something bad is happening, it's obviously here to reflect something back to me. Therefore, it's giving me an opportunity to expand into someone that I could be. Everything is supporting me. The universe has my best interest at heart. The universe provides me with the best people. I had an experience not long ago where I was slighted by someone in real life. Old me would have folded, would have taken that personally, would have stayed stuck, would have cried about it for months. New me, I've already let it go. In the moment, I took that as an opportunity to look at my own shadow self, to look at better ways that I can show up for myself and others, and then I moved on from it. I let it go because the story wasn't there anymore. I've already used the tools to move past that conditioning of not feeling good enough, not feeling lovable. I don't have that kind of Velcro inside of me anymore that gets stuck on people with bad vibes. As you take the time to invest in you, to pour back into you, show yourself more love, you enter into that soft feminine part of you that you had to push to the side because it wasn't safe for you to bring that out. You didn't have the mindset that was safe for that feminine side of you to come out. So you imitated the traits of the masculine energy and then therefore brought in these feminine pick-me men who wanted to take advantage of you. But as you do the things that maybe you don't initially want to do, like just stop dating for a little bit or take a break or get really clear on the relationships that are in your life or reassess your career. Sometimes those are hard decisions and I don't blame you for wanting to put them off or just keep going the way that you're going. But if it's creating burnout, if it's creating bitterness, if it's making you hurt, those are some great signs that it's time to reassess and pull back into you. Your soft feminine energy will come out of you, will come out to play when she knows it's safe. When you've established the standards and the boundaries that attract better relationships, when you've gotten clear on what your path is, when you've gotten rid of the mental fog of limiting beliefs and conditions. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I love seeing more faces joining the community. If you would like to take this a step further, don't forget to check out the Mastering Your Feminine Energy in Dating. Next week, we're going to be looking at the signs to look for in good men. Thank you for joining me and goodbye.